My name is Byron Prior. I'm from Grand Bank, Newfoundland. It's a small town on the south coast of the island here, next to the French islands of St. Pierre. It's about 2,500 people. My family and I grew up there in the 60s. I'm the oldest of 12 children. I come from a family that were abused and persecuted by our hometown for reporting abuse and incest in our family to the authorities and the people throughout our town. Our mother, a very sick person who needed medical attention, was ignored basically what she was doing to our family and myself. I'd reported since 1960 to the RCMP. Even previously, the medical authorities there, doctors in a small town with a cottage hospital, were aware of what was happening to us. Our mother was many times taken to the Waterford Hospital, a mental institution, for therapy and electric shocks, but continued to sign herself out. She was a married lady. Our dad, Randall Prior, was a sea captain who worked on the boats and basically had spent 2-3 days a month at home and the rest of the time at sea. So had very little control over what had happened at home when he was away as well as when he was there, because, as she called it, it was her house. Our mother raped and abused myself and my sisters and used us for anything she could get, from money to groceries to liquor, pills, clothing, anything, to neighbors, friends around town, business people, and in a most extreme case, the Minister of Justice. My sister, at the time 12 years old, was raped and made pregnant by the Minister of Justice, who controlled our legal system from 1966 until the year 2000. He retired in September of 2000. He went from Justice Minister in 66 to 79, and then immediately from 79 till 2000, Chief Justice of our Supreme Court. Every time that I and 3 sisters and 1 other brother made reports to the RCMP or other authorities, it was ignored. In one case, 2 of my sisters, one beaten till her nose was bleeding and broken, and another sister who our mother grabbed and bit a full piece from her breast. They climbed out the top stairs window onto the porch, down the storm door, and made their way to the RCMP office to report what had happened, both bleeding and my sister with a piece bitten out of her breast. The RCMP talked with them, took their statements, called the Justice Department, and 10 minutes later they were brought back to the house that they'd run away from with the abuse there. Nothing at all was done about it.
That was your mother that did that?
Yes, our mother did that to 2 of my sisters.
What years are we talking about here? When did the abuse occur with the Justice Minister?
The Justice Minister in 1966 was elected to the provincial government as Justice Minister for our district. On that very day in September 1966, at the campaign headquarters in Grand Bank, the LOL, the Loyal Orange Lodge, is where he actually did this to my sister during their winning celebrations party. My mother was at the party at the headquarters all morning, and she came home. I was watching the kids. She came home just after lunchtime, and I could see that she was drinking and feeling under the weather. Her intention was to take my sister back to the campaign headquarters, and I knew instantly that there was big trouble happening here. So I just put the kids, settled them down at the house, and followed them back to the headquarters. When we got there, my sister and my mother went through the door into the party. Outside the door was standing a man, Les Douglas, watching the door, kept me outside the outside door and wouldn't allow me in. They were there about 5, maybe 10 minutes inside. Then Mr. Hickman, the man who was just elected as justice minister, came out, went up the stairs to the top floor of the Loyal Orange Lodge. Immediately after that, my mother and sister came out, and they headed for the stairs going up as well. I was standing in the entrance to the door because Mr. Douglas wouldn't let me in. I sang out to my sister and said, "Suzanne, come here, please, come here." And they both ignored me, went up the stairs with Mr. Hickman. Mr. Douglas came over and drove me out and called me such a things and closed the door and said, "You get out of here, you little bastard." So I left and went home, waited with the kids for my mother to come back.
How old were you at this time?
I was 13.
And your sister was?
She was 11 years and 9 months. It was September. She was 12 years old until December 24th.
That was 1966.
6. She was born in 1955, December 24th, Christmas Eve. She always complained because she never got Christmas gifts because it was her birthday, or she didn't get birthday gifts because it was Christmas. And Hickman decided she was his gift for being elected. This man was a lawyer for many years before this, and a very influential one here. And rather, he also came to our house often before he got into politics, because him and our mother carried on a relationship that they had had since they were children, as well as her with many other people. But after he was elected, then their relationship went to mostly Eric Piercy's business offices, 2 of them in the town, or they met elsewhere, or she came to town here and stayed at the CNIB, where he had arrangements where she could stay and she'd visit him that way.
And what did she get in return for? I mean, basically she was giving him sex.
Our mother got in return from Alec Hickman a full-time blind pension from the CNIB in 1967, while this lady continued all her life to have a car and a driver's license. But yet any time there was a convention in St. John's for the government members, she would always get a CNIB pass for the taxi and come to St. John's and stay at the CNIB residence here in the city. And she did that often, many times. And any time that she was requested to come in, she was delighted to come. But she had continued as long as I can remember, to get a full-time blind pension, but always had a car, always had a driver's license. So I guess that was her payola for being a good person for the politicians, I would imagine. But anyway, that day when they came back from the campaign headquarters, at our house, back then there was no central heating. We had a large wood stove in the downstairs with a grate over the stove so the heat would go upstairs. So I'd had the kids all tucked away because I knew when they came back our mother would be even more drunk and we'd get more abused. So I lay on the floor at the top of the stairs by the grate, and my mother and Suzanne came in, and she took Suzanne's hand by the stove and said, "Are you okay? Alec didn't hurt you, did he?" And she said, "No, Mom, I didn't care what he was doing. You didn't have to hold my arms." And I was just laying there on the floor listening, and she said, "That's okay, sweetie. You go up on your bed and put your feet up on the head of the bed, and you relax, and I'll sing out to you when supper is ready." My 12-year-old sister got pregnant that day,